All right, lads and lasses, and g'day, mates. Welcome to another episode of the Toon podcast, the Southern Hemisphere's #1 podcast for all things Newcastle United. In this podcast, we are going to be reviewing the disappointing defeat to Arsenal at St James's Park, which was a 1:30 a.m. kickoff on a school morning for us here in Australia. Thank you very much to whoever planned that one. So we are a little bit on the jaded side. But we'll get into the game. We'll talk about a few of the key points, the VAR decision, Arsenal bypassing our midfield for large parts of the game, and one or two things about. I'm tempted to talk a lot about Arsenal's diving tactics. Maybe not diving, but going down easy tactics, let's call it. So we'll probably touch on that a great deal. Just before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to all the Aussie Mags here down under. The Aussie Mag group is arranging some meetups for the Leeds game coming this weekend. It's a 9:30 kickoff down the East Coast and part of the South Coast, and it'll be a little bit earlier for the guys in Perth. Addresses on the screen, but just very quickly, Melbourne will be at the Sherlock Holmes Inn, as always. Sydney at the Cheers Bar, as always. Brisbane at the Pig and Whistle, as always. Perth at the Hill Street Sports Bar and Restaurant. Don't know if that's always. And then Newcastle, New South Wales at the Black Butt Hotel. So that's an interesting name. It's in your own hands if you got that place. But those are the shout outs for the various groups. If we didn't mention something there where you are, there probably isn't anything that's been arranged, at least not via Aussie Mags. But feel free to give them a shout on Facebook if you want to ask them a question. And just before we get going properly, please hit the like button and give us a nice review on your podcast providers. It does help us out an awful lot. Now, Bobby, we went this game. Yes, sorry, I haven't even said hello. Hello, Bobby. How are you going down there in freezing cold Ballarat?
I'm good, mate. You never got quite as much energy after a loss as a win, but we'll power through this.
Yeah, mate. Sorry, I'm so eager to power through this. I forgot to say hello. That's very unbelievably rude of me. I am actually quite knackered, as I've said. I think we're both completely knackered. But look, let's get into the teams. I want to just quickly go onto the teams, and then I want to discuss a few other things about the game just before it actually kicked off. So the teams were Nick Pope, Trips, Shaw, Botman and Byrne at the back. Then it was Bruno, Willock, Jolinton, Jacob Murphy, Alexander Isak and Callum Wilson. So one or two surprises in that lineup, Bobby. I think probably the first and probably the most disappointing one was the lack of Longstaff. Evidently, he has not recovered from that horrendous tackle that went completely unpunished. I forget it was against now. Who was it against? I forget. But he's obviously not ready to return. That was one of the big omissions. And then also Isak and Wilson starting for, God, it must only be the first or second time. It hasn't happened very often, has it? We see the two strikers or two forwards starting the game. What do you make of that lineup?
Yeah, sad to hear about Longstaff, and I think we're hearing his injury might be worse than we feared. So I think Howe said that he's going for tests, so it might be the season for Longy, which is bitterly disappointing. We've got a half fit Bruno in the middle, and we could really use his legs. So that's disappointing. I think the pressure from everyone to start Wilson and Isak was so great that I think he had to, but I'm not too sure that was a correct move in this game. But it is what it is. We went with it. And it's good to see St. Maximum on the bench as well, returning.
Yeah, absolutely. The bench, kind of a middling sort of strength, isn't it? Dubravka, Dummett, Gordon, ASM, Lewis, Target, Manquillo, Almiron, and you just about make that out there, Anderson at the bottom. Yeah, when you drop players like Longy and you start players like Wilson and Isak, it suddenly makes the bench just a little bit weaker. You did say, I think you did say beforehand that you weren't keen on the idea of Isak and Wilson. I must admit, I was looking forward to seeing how they played together. They've been tremendous recently. What was the specific? Was there a specific reason why you were kind of a little bit reticent about that idea? Was there something you could see in the Arsenal team that we'll get onto in a minute?
Yeah, they're wingers. I think with Isaac moving to the wing instead of up front. We lost a little bit of run with Wilson being up front, so sort of exposed the midfield. And as I said, Bruno's got one leg at the moment. So, look, I think against teams, I hope we play this lineup against Leicester at home and maybe even against Leeds away, because I think, it's a lineup that's very attacking. But against the second best team in the league, I didn't think it was the right move, but I can understand why. I think Wilson would be knocking on the door, demanding a start, and he deserved it. But I just felt we should have stuck with what we knew and had Wilson come on either at halftime or something to shift the game a little bit.
And that's the problem, isn't it? We don't really have. If you start those two guys, we don't have another forward to bring on. If it's not working, right? So that kind of plays your hand a little bit early. Let's move on to the Arsenal team. Ramsdale, White, Kiwara, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Jorginho, Xhaka, Odegaard, Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus. What did they make of that lineup? I think there was a suggestion that Gabriel might not make this one.
Yeah, we were all hoping for that, because it would have been Rob Holding in the middle of that defence, which would have helped us out. And with that lineup, it might have brought on a few more clear-cut chances. But Gabriel's a star, and he started, and that's a very strong team. I mean, Arsenal are the next best after Man City, and that team is very, very strong, particularly in midfield. Their midfield three was very experienced and very powerful, we'll say.
Yeah, we'll get onto them soon. They were terrific. The subs aren't that strong, though, are they? Turner, Tierney, Holden, Partey, Vieira, Smith Rowe, Nelson, Trossard, and
it's not bad.
Trossard and Nketiah are obviously very good. Who else are you picking out that team?
Smith Rowe's got talent. Vieira's a big money signing. Tierney's the guy we're after for a left back position to start. So, and Partey's a very good player. I think Turner is. I'm not too sure. I haven't heard of Turner, but I think they had difference makers on the bench. A lot more than what we did.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the game then. I just wanted to touch on, first of all, the efforts of War Flags. Like, I'm sitting here in bed, 1:30, just woken up, kind of thinking, right, I need to get pumped for this game. I was kind of nervous a little bit, but I did actually predict we were going to lose it, because I'm so optimistic, as everyone knows who watches this podcast. But you watch those scenes, and they're just, I mean, the noise was probably the loudest I've heard in a very long time. Even after they sang the anthem, the national anthem for the coronation, there was an even louder noise. It was like a cacophony, it was a cauldron of noise. And then you see the flags all waving around. And I mean, the lads at War Flags did an absolutely terrific job, didn't it? And I suppose, especially the way the game started, it kind of felt like that was going to give us a bit of a boost, like the first 5 minutes. We were all over them, but just that noise and just that scene of St. James's with all the flags waving around it, it's terrific, isn't it? Even on the other side of the world, you still get that kind of buzz, don't you?
Goosebumps. 1:30 in the morning, sitting on the couch watching the game, you've got goosebumps and your hair standing up at the back of your neck because of what they're producing. Is just they do it every week. You know what to expect, but they still blow you away. Incredible fan base. I saw on Twitter. NBC Sport America, had the vision of the crowd and said, "Going to St. James's Park is a bucket list item." I mean, that's going to get to all their followers.
Yeah, right.
So they're not only doing the players well every game, but they're broadcasting this to the world, and people around the world are taking note. So fantastic effort.
Yeah, absolutely. It was absolutely terrific. And as I just touched on there, the first 5 minutes, well, probably the first 7 or 8, I think it was really just Newcastle going for the jugular. I think it was clear that the intention was to get that early goal, keep the fans on side, rattle Arsenal. They don't like it up them, except they did this time around. What was it, 2 minutes, Murphy?
Yeah.
Again, the woodwork botherer of the team, who he doesn't have like a bit of wood, does he? He must have been gutted when Chris left for Nottingham Forest. He finds himself in a bit of space, and he manages to blammo off the their left upright.
Yeah.
so close. And then, well, first of all, did you think that was going to go in from Murphy? It was so close. And what is it with him and Wood? What you know?
He's found a bit of form lately, and he's putting goals in. So I thought that was behind him, but he definitely collected Wood this game. I thought it was in. I jumped off the couch. So yeah, disappointing he didn't go in. I think if that went in, the whole game, the complexion of the whole game changes. So that's how close we were. So I mean, it's a disappointing result in the end, but it's positive performance, I think, anyway. And that was the start of the performance. So yeah, very unlucky. And I think we pretty much dominated the game up until they scored, to be honest. And but yeah, definitely, as you said, the first 8 minutes, I thought this was going to turn into another Tottenham. We were going to just create chances, and then we'll just blow them down, and we'd have at least 2 up in the first 20 minutes or 30 minutes, I thought, but it wasn't to be.
It wasn't to be, no. And it wasn't long after that woodwork tickle from Murphy that we thought we had a penalty. And in real time, I was up and down, jumping around, thinking, get in, here we go. This is what we need. We need this goal while the pressure is on, while we're actually flying before Arsenal get a chance to settle properly. It looked for all in the world like it was going to be a penalty, but our mates at the VAR decided to chime in with a decision that basically said, from what I've read, they've said something along the lines of, well, because it hit his knee before it hits his arm, it's not a penalty. So that was apparently the rule that they went with. It was pretty difficult to even see that. I'll be honest, it was difficult to see it definitively hit either his knee or his arm in the vision that we saw, and particularly the angle that the referee was getting. What did you make of the on-field call, and then what did you make of VAR being our mates again?
Well, live, I thought it was a penalty, as the ref did. So he pointed to the spot, which was good work. I don't understand VAR. They're not there to make decisions. They're there to correct clear and obvious mistakes. That wasn't a clear and obvious mistake because they took an age to get to that decision. So it's obviously not clear and obvious, and they've overruled the ref on a non-clear and obvious decision. So the point of VAR was to stop the howlers, and that wasn't one. So I've replayed it, slowed it down, and had arguments with people on Twitter that, can you tell me that it's definitely not hit his arm? You can't.
But even if it did hit his arm, but it's hit his leg first, is there something in the rules that says, well, in that case, it's fine then?
I wouldn't have thought so. It's still his arm.
You wouldn't think so, would you?
It'd
be a bit of a strange kind of like, hey, don't worry about it. If you kick it to your hand, that's fine. You'd have Joe Linton diving in there, saving his own. Well, yeah, let's not get into Joe Linton
saving his own shots.
Yeah,
but you'd be like doing knees up and tapping it with your hand and going, I'd hit my knee first. Like, I don't know about the rule, but it's a bit. I was fuming. I just dumbfounded. If it was the other way around, it would have been a penalty.
Oh no, it's the red shirt rule, isn't it? If you've got a red shirt, you're golden. Tin hat again. Here we go with the tin hats. But the VAR, and we've talked about this, I don't know how many times on this podcast, just as probably everybody else has at some point during this season, and will continue to for as long as it's complete crap, is that it is re-reffing the game. I remember when they were talking about this, and the biggest concern was that they would end up re-reffing the game, and this whole concoction of pitch side TVs and all that was meant to kind of alleviate that situation and allow the referee to have the final say, which he does. But when he goes over to the side and looks at the TV, fine well he's going to go with whatever VAR's chirping away in his ear about. Like it's not like NRL over here and probably back home in the UK where, from what I can see anyway, from when I've seen it, the ref asks for the angles that he wants to see. He tells the VAR to replay it, tells him to slow it down. He then trots away and makes his own decision. The one in the football that we've got right now is it's blatant because you can see the referee nodding away as he's looking at the screen. It's blatant that the VAR telling him what they've seen, i.e. they are re-reffing what was originally called on the pitch. And then the referee is essentially being convinced or having his opinion changed by the strength of the argument from VAR, and the game is then re-reffed as a result. It needs to change, in my opinion, and of course we can't even hear what the hell they're saying. Now, look, if it was the correct decision, that's fine. Obviously his arm did take some kind of contact because it swung backwards, But whether or not it hit the knee, I think, in my opinion, it's very difficult to see, to say. And I really want that situation where it goes with the on-field decision. If it's inconclusive, the VAR should just say, look, ref, it's inconclusive. You go with the on-field call. That's the way I think it should be in this game. And God, I hope they do it. I mean, did you, just for the final point on this, did you see Shearer at halftime going absolutely berserk with Gallagher, the ex-ref?
He was just portraying what I was feeling, I was totally backing him up, because it's become so frustrating for the fans that it's got to a point where we're absolutely losing it, because they're ruining the game. They're ruining. And what your point is so just, like, they shouldn't be talking to the VAR at all while they're making their own minds up on the screen, because it's obvious. The VAR are pointing them to the decision of what they're thinking, which shouldn't happen. I think we spoke about it on another pod. There was only been one ref who's had a look at it and said, no, I'm backing my decision. Yeah. That was, I think, Michael Oliver, who's a very experienced and good ref. But we'll never get him because he's a Newcastle fan. So it's just a farce. Like, I mean, we talk about it every week, and most podcasts for every team will be talking about it every week, unless you're Liverpool, who get all the decisions anyway. So, yeah. So, I mean, it's so frustrating. And another point of the game where, if that decision was given what the ref said, it's probably 1-0, and the whole complexion changes of the game. So,
just on that, do you think this game would have changed? Now, looking at it in retrospect, obviously it's a lot of guesswork here, but do you think the game would have changed significantly had we got that first goal? Or, as we've seen sometimes, would we kind of lose our shit and then Arsenal just come straight back?
No, I think it would have changed. I think when you go 1 down, you're chasing the game, and their theatrics have fallen down every time the wind touched them. Wouldn't have been so prevalent, because they're trying to chase the game. They don't want to waste their time. And they did it to frustrate us, which is fine. Like, I'm not having a go at them, because we do it too. So it's just hypocritical that they call us out on it and then they do it anyway. So I think, definitely the game changes. If that's a penalty and we score, they're chasing the game. So it allows us to dictate a bit of the play, because they're trying to press us. They're trying to come at us to score, so we can hit them on the counter more and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not saying we would have won. I can't predict the future, can't predict what would have happened, but it changes the outcome of that game. But it is what it is. We've got to deal with it as football fans, that VAR are going to make some controversial calls, particularly for the bigger clubs in the league, which we will be joining them very soon.
We already are, mate. All right, let's move on from VAR, because this will just be a very long podcast if we don't talk about anything else. It wasn't long after that they get their goal, and this was kind of their first shot on target. I think I remember the commentator saying, possibly against a little bit of run of play, given that we'd had two, golden opportunities to go ahead. What happened? Talk us through it. It was Odegaard with the goal. How did it come about?
Against the run of play, it's sort of, watching it live. Odegaard's a good player. He's just he's a wonderful, wonderful player, and he just, had a go and got it past Pope. Nothing he could do, I don't think. It's just
nothing he could have done better.
I don't think so. I think, it's one of those shots to just go in, and you got to stand back and applaud, really, and say, all right, move on. But it was definitely against the run of play and against everything that was happening. And I would have liked that to hit the post rather than, to get a bit of luck the other way. But it wasn't to be. It was a sweet shot.
It was all right. I mean, it went through a bit of a crowd. It went between Botman's legs. I think he was trying to cover that side of the post and the side of the goal, rather. And he kind of just tried to cross his legs a little bit. And the ball had already gone through by the time he managed to do it. I wonder if that is kind of somewhat miscited.
I think so.
Pope. I kind of also wondered if Pope was sort of anticipating a deflection of some sort, because when you blammer through that kind of body of players, it takes a slight deflection and you're kind of flat-footed and it can end up on the other side of the goal. And I kind of wonder, did he see it late, or did he just kind of anticipate a bit of a touch?
I thought at the time he saw it late. I think because of the fact that it went through legs. I think that was my thinking at the time.
But what about the space afforded to Odegaard to get that shot away? There was, we'll see this throughout the game as well. There was space on the edge of the box. We were sitting deep in our own area, trying to defend, and we're just leaving guys in open space, able to kind of pick out shots or pick out passes. In this particular instance, it was Joe Linton, I think, who came chasing out to try and close him down. Didn't manage to get there, but what are we doing leaving that kind of space to, a team like Arsenal and a player like Odegaard? We had to do better, surely.
Yeah, it's unlike us too, isn't it? We're usually very, very in their face at defending. So I don't know if it was by instruction because of the stats maybe saying those midfielders don't really shoot from outside the box or whatever happened. But yeah, it was a bit disappointing. And you're right, it happened right throughout the game. But I think it sort of fell in line with that midfield three of theirs dictating the game. And I think we were just off kilter. I think, Bruno had a very poor game by his standards. Same with Joe Linton, really. So, and Willock. So yeah, we're just beaten. So
yeah. Well, let's talk about the midfield because it was uncharacteristic, even in that sense. Bruno was, by the end of the game, I think it was clear that he wasn't quite the same Bruno that we know and love. He was a little bit ponderous on the ball. Tried to win a number of niggling free kicks, and the referee was just waving it away. And then we were kind of sold too short. We'd overload up front, and then he'd kind of try and win a free kick, and the referee gave him nothing, putting everybody under pressure. They were just kind of. There was a time during that half where they were just waltzing right through the half. They were just passing straight through through the middle of the park and just cutting us wide open. And it took a few good saves from Pope, didn't it, to keep us even in the game in the first half, really. I mean, they had ones from Saka, Martinelli, and Odegaard as well. Some good saves from Pope. But is this where we saw the problem with the lack of Longy? Would he have made significant difference in the middle, do you think, had he been playing? And could Bruno then have been able to express himself a little bit better, maybe?
I think this is why a lot of people want to see Bruno as the 8, not the 6. I think, this is the kind of reason. I wonder if Arteta saw the game against Aston Villa because Villa sort of did the same thing. Emery pressed Bruno every time he got the ball, gave him no time. And it worked for them too. And that day, our midfield was exposed as well. Lots of gaps in the on the field for us. I wonder if that's now going to be what they try to do. And Bruno isn't the same Bruno because he's obviously got an ankle injury that's hampering him. So to your question, yeah, Longstaff would have made a difference because he's a defensive midfielder. Which we sort of didn't have. I mean, Joe Linton can play a role, but he's more, that sort of brute that goes forward with the ball and, helps down the left and everything like that. So, yeah, I think we needed Longstaff for Bruno to be that 8, and he wasn't there. So it exposed us. And Odegaard, that was obviously what he was instructed to do, just keep pushing at Bruno and pressing, and he played a blinder.
Yeah, he did a terrific job. All right. Well, so, I mean, I was in the first game that we played down there at their place. I was really impressed with the press of Arsenal. I've never really thought of Arsenal as a pressing team, at least not in the recent years anyway. And I was really impressed with how they came out and kind of limit us to very limited forays up the pitch. There's that chance that Joe Linton had that could have got us 1-0 ahead against the run of play. And I felt like even in this game, even though that we were trying and huffing and puffing and trying to do things, that there was still an awful lot of pressure coming from Arsenal. They're kind of playing with the confidence you'd expect a team that's been at the top of the league all season, and I don't know. I can't remember what you predicted for this. Did you predict a win for this game? Because I could see that we were going to struggle a little bit with this Arsenal team. But you never know, do you? You never know. Once the fans are going and the players have got the backs up, you just don't know what's going to happen. But I was really impressed again with Arsenal's pressing in this game. Was there any other aspects that you saw, particularly in the first half, that stood out for you from Arsenal as a team?
Oh, they're a quality team. They've pushed Manchester City right to the end of the season for a championship. That's no mean feat, especially when you look at the age of Arsenal and their young players. They're still a developing side. If you remember last season, they were on the brink of Champions League. I mean, we ruined that for them, but they were young and inexperienced, and what they've done in 12 months has been remarkable. And because they're young and they're athletic, and the way Arteta has them, they cover the pitch really, really well, which is an area that we've got to look at too. I think there's sometimes we get exposed with gaps and covering the pitch when we're not on song, and that's why the transfer market, I think you'll see a lot more athletic and pacey players coming to the squad for us going forward. But Arsenal do that extremely well, and they've got talent like Martinelli and Saka on the wings. It's just unbelievable. Their pace, their power, their skill. It makes your defenders think twice before they move up, because you've got these two wingers that can just go and expose you the other way. So, class team, but I don't think we were. If we had won, I don't think it would have been unjust either. So I think we played a really good team, and we played at a really high standard, not at our best, but at a really high standard, and we gave a good account of ourselves. So we should be proud.
Yeah, we really should do, and I hope the fan base can kind of recognise that. This is top of the table clash here. This is the best teams in the league, in the country, over the period of a year, or the season at least, playing each other. It's always going to be an interesting game. We actually get through this to halftime, 1-0 down. I kind of wondered, is Eddie Howe going to make some changes here, because the midfield was getting so sliced open, almost at will at times. I wondered if he was going to do one of his famous Eddie Howe halftime tactical changes or something, but as it turns out, he stuck with the same players. Jim Beglin on the co-commentary, he reckoned that some positional changes had happened. Though I think he said that Joe Linton went out to the left. I'm struggling to remember that in my head. I kind of feel like he was still mostly in the middle, but it was kind of more the same. We came out from the blocks absolutely flying. Obviously, the message was, how are lads getting into this lot? We're only 1-0 down. They've only had like one decent, well, I say they've only had one decent shot on target. They did have a number of shots on target, some good saves from Pope. But nonetheless, they were only 1-0 down. Newcastle came out flying. Our latest woodwork botherer, Isaac, he manages to give us all false hope. And not long after, I think it was Shaw who is in a brilliant position, does a wonderful leap. Was it from a set piece? I can't remember. But anyway, he gets up like a salmon, nuts it, and in fairness, it's a pretty good save by Ramsdale, but it was kind of a little bit too close to his right hand side. Yeah. Pope makes his own round of decent saves. I think I've seen a few people say that in the second half they felt Newcastle was a little bit of the better team. How did you, if you look back in that second half, did you say it that way? I was kind of just too annoyed that we were not winning by this point to really kind of pick out the tactics. But what did you reckon?
I think it was very even the first half. I mean, I know Arsenal had those chances at the end, but we had the chances at the start. In this game, in the second half, I thought, we probably shaded the chances. I still thought that their midfield got on top of our midfield in the second half. But as I said, I predicted 2-2 in this game, because I saw Arsenal scoring against our defence, because we haven't kept a clean sheet in a long time, and they've got quality players. But on another day, we get 2 goals in that. Like, we had a lot of chances ourselves, and we don't rattle the woodwork. I mean, the Tottenham game, everything was going in. Mm-hmm. And today, nothing went in. So, I thought it was a very fair contest. I think people look at the score and think, we got belted and we're not in Arsenal's class. But I actually was very happy at the end of the game, not with the result, but the performance. I thought we showed the second best team in the league, that we're at that level. And I think it's good for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We're serious. We've said before, you learn a lot more in defeat than you do in victory, especially if you're winning all the time. So it'll be interesting to see how Eddie Howe responds to this. Hopefully it does it the same way he responded to that Villa defeat and comes out and we go on a little mini run of victories again. We were actually pressing an awful lot in this game, and it was again against the run of play. I think you'd have to say, when Martinelli, the biker twacker, who looks like he's just nicked a few cars and then he's turned up for a game of footy with his little tash and stuff going on. He's allowed, and this is on the back of a foul from Miggy that I'll come on to in a second. But it wasn't a foul. He kind of just strolls out of his half. The ball comes to him. He's still inside his own half, and he just he almost trots up the field, just like, not really pressed, not really put in any kind of trouble, and he just kind of gets to the byline. And I think he's obviously made the decision, I'm just going to cut it in the middle and see what happens. And it falls to, unfortunately, it falls to Shah, who toe pokes it right past Pope. Pope, I wonder, could he have been in front of Shah to save that ball as it was coming across, do you think? Or was he just too busy covering his near post in case it got a touch or something? Anyway, as it was, it went in. What did you think of that particular goal? And more importantly, just at the time when it was scored as well?
Yeah, it hurt. I think, again, I felt that we had the ascendancy at that point, and to be 2-0 down, you look at it and I dropped. I thought, all right, well, that's that then. And I wonder if the players did the same. You know, for all their fight, for all what happened, we were really unlucky going for our goal, and they get a goal like that. It's hard, you know, when balls are whipped in like that across the goal, anything can happen. I think I'd hate to be a keeper because you're trying to predict, you know, a mess that could happen. So you're trying to cover the front of the post, you're trying to cover the back post, and then your defender gets a touch and you're like in no man's land. So, you know, it is what it is. I think we didn't have luck with us on this side in this game, and I'm not saying Arsenal did, but yeah, we didn't have the luck this game, and goals like that happen.
Cracking finish. I think even Haaland would have been proud of that goal mountain finish, toe poke at the end there.
Well, Shah only scores worldies, doesn't he? So
he does, absolute blamos. And in fact, later on, he almost got a goal, didn't he? And I think he leant back a little bit and it went flying over the top. But that was almost his chance at redemption. You could see in his face he was absolutely seething. Touching on that Miggy foul, that wasn't a foul. I know Craig in the chat was apoplectic at this one. Did you? And actually, when I was watching this live, I don't remember seeing a single replay of what happened. The commentators talked about it, but I don't remember seeing a single replay of that incident at any point after it happened. Did you? And did you see a foul in there?
I missed it. I must have turned up and I didn't see it. I saw the foul given. I didn't see actually what it was for. And then, as you said, I haven't seen a replay of it, but it, you know, if, you know, half of Bruno's weren't paid and they were all fouls, and then this one goes and gets a foul. So it is what it is.
Yeah, this is the one where Miggy was up the field and he's got two blokes around him. And I think he was getting held or he was getting dragged back, and he falls on his backside, gets nothing off the linesman, and then the ball makes its way to Martinelli and goes marching up the pitch and then gets that goal. That's the kind of incident I was kind of referring to there. Did you see that one at all? The Miggy one at all? Yeah. No. There was no replays, mate. I didn't see it at all, a replay of that, and I would like to have seen it because I wasn't quite sure. The linesman was pretty close to it, if I remember rightly. So, you know, maybe there was nothing in it, but Miggy was waving his arms around and giving this kind of startled deer look to the side, saying, "Oh, what about that?" Like, but the thing about the rest of this game, and actually for a large part of this game as well, I want to touch on this now, is the tactics from Arsenal to waste time, but more than waste time, I think their tactics was really to take the sting out of the game. Whenever Newcastle looked like they were building up a head of steam, whenever it looked like Newcastle were going to do something like score a goal, for example, they went down under the slightest touch, rolled around on the pitch screaming, invariably got a free kick off the referee, and then they took the sweet time to take that free kick. But what they were doing was taking the steam from us. They were taking away the sting from the moment, and then they were giving themselves time to reorganize and regroup and restart. And they did that all the way through the game. Now, that's fine for Arsenal to do that. You know, as you've said before, Bobby, it's not like we don't have some of the dark arts going on. Mm-hmm. And, you know, there's 1,000 articles out there now and lots of posts on forums of people who are pissing and whinging about all the time wasting stuff that we do. The issue I've got with it today is that the referee pretty much paid every single flop to the floor, and some of them were hilarious. Some of them were kind of proper swan dive leaps. Some of the screams I could have heard from my house just through the air. I didn't need to have the TV. It was, you know, it was to the point it was getting embarrassing. You could see the players were getting annoyed. They start to have handbags all over the pitch, and of course this plays into the hand of Arsenal because it riles us up, and there's every chance that we'll get another yellow card or get sent off or something. The referees seem to have lost his cards in this game. What did you make of those? I know you've already touched on it, but it was slightly galling to see the referee pay these things out not every single, but almost every single time, in my opinion. I think he could have done a lot better to stop that kind of behaviour early on, because it wasn't just at the end of the game they were doing it. They were doing it for large parts of it. Am I just being a sore loser, Sook, or do you think I've got something going on there?
There's two points on this. The one is the refereeing, which, you come to expect this for whatever reason, and tinfoil hat on here.
Red shirt.
The red shirts, the top clubs will always get the benefit of the doubt if they roll around and carry on like pork chops. That's fundamentally what happens. We see it every single time. One of those clubs have a player that doesn't get touched and rolls around holding his ankle. The ref thinks, I cannot not give this free kick to them. So that's one point. On what Arsenal did and their tactic, it was so clever. They've learned from last year in terms of the crowd. They got battered last year because they allowed the crowd to just keep revving and revving. What they were doing was sucking the oxygen from the crowd, because they know the St. James Park crowd is, when everything's flying, it's another man for us. It can't be beaten. The electricity must be just incredible. Like, I've been there a couple of times and I've never experienced anything like this before. So what they did was say, we can't afford to have that again. We can't afford this crowd to build that electricity. So every time Newcastle got on top, we need to suck the energy out of the stadium and get them frustrated. Because the one thing our fans can do is, when things aren't going well, is really, really get annoyed, and it plays into the narrative of what's going on in the park. So on that thing, brilliant tactics, smart, clever. And we're going to see a lot of this. We've made Europe, but Champions League I'm talking about, we're going to see the Italians and the Spanish and all these clubs. It's going to be a norm. We've just got to cope with it, and our fan base have got to see this for what it was. Yeah. It was absolutely smart tactics by Arteta to take that out the game. So, I've got no qualms about it, because, as I said, I think we do it a little bit. On your other point, I just expect this from referees. They're a nightmare. I don't know what we do about them.
Well, if he didn't Keegan say that Castro are going to miss a trick next season if they don't come out with a red shirt for Newcastle?
We should have a red away shirt. I agree. And confuse the refs to be like, oh, that must be Manchester United, not Newcastle United.
Just do a red away shirt and wear it the whole season.
Yeah, it's kind of nuts. Like, I mean, I'd be embarrassed if I was doing what the Arsenal players did, because as you're right, it was as a player, it's just fabricated crap. But they did it. They won 2-0. They walk away. All good to them.
We lick our wounds. But as you touched on there, it is hopefully going to serve as a really good learning experience for next season when we come up against all these pork chops in Europe. I love saying things like pork chops. It's hilarious. Just to kind of wrap up this a little bit, was there anything that Eddie Howe could have done better with the subs that he made? He made Miggy's sub on 65 to take Murphy off. He brought on ASM and Gordon on 78 for Willock and Wilson, and then he brought on Anderson and Target for Big J and Dan Byrne on 82 minutes. So he kind of spread out the changes. It was almost like he was waiting to see if each of those changes incrementally made any kind of difference to the way the team was performing. Do you think he could have done anything better with the way the game was going?
No, he tried to get a spark. I mean, Almiron for Murphy was, it's a known change. Murphy's taken Almiron's spot in the lineup. So, once we started Almiron, it didn't work. So he brought on Murphy and we got a spark. So he was probably trying to reverse that. Gordon and ASM have got pace and, guile. So trying to see if they can unlock the defense in some way. It is what it is. I still think that having Wilson on the bench would have been great to bring Wilson on to change that narrative. Yeah, and
give the defenders
Arsenal.
Yeah, give the defenders something more to think about. Yeah,
exactly right. But who knows? We might have been 3-0 down at half time. So it is what it is. So as I said, I'm really happy with the performance. I think that game showed to me that we're not far away. I mean, I think we need to get a bigger squad and some better depth, but we're not that far away from the top of the tree. And to play in a game like that is going to teach us a lot, as you said. We're going to get a lot of lessons out of that for next year. So we've just got to get 7 more points for the rest of this year to get to the goal of making Champions League, and everything's sweet.
3 more results we need from 4 games. Yeah, it's getting squeaky bummy time, isn't it? I actually think ASM looked really lively when he came on. It was good to see him. I don't know if he's putting an audition in for a move to Arsenal next season. I don't know. I don't know what is going to happen in him in the summer with the amount of time he's been out of the game with his injuries and so on, and playing cards in France.
He loves playing against the big boys because
he does, doesn't he?
He puts himself in the shop window, I think.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see on that one. I actually thought he was really good, though. He did bring a lot to that game. Gave him an awful lot to think about at the back. Golden, I think he needs a pre-season to really kind of shine, but I do love his tenacity. And didn't see a great deal from Anderson and Target, but they only had about 8 minutes. Well, I say that. One last thing I want to touch on, last thing, is that
Anderson?
No. What was the Anderson thing?
The dive in the penalty.
That was a cracker. Although having said that, the player, I can't remember who the player was, but he did stick his arse out in a deliberate attempt to get in his way. But I mean, it didn't deserve a friggin' tuck and dive, 2 rolls, and like a finger bangs at the end, did it?
Yeah, he'll learn. But I can applaud him. He's thinking, well, Arsenal going down and they're getting free kicks for nothing, so I'll try.
Didn't wear a red shirt though, was he? He wasn't wearing a red shirt.
Exactly right.
So red shirt rule. Come on. The last thing I'll touch on is that we played exactly 6 minutes in the second half. So, all right, look, if the referee thinks 6 minutes is enough to cover what went on beforehand, fine. But in the middle of those 6 minutes, we had players having fights in the corner, and it took bloody ages for that to get all sorted out. And then just before he blows his whistle, was it Shaka who'd been diving all day, or not diving, but going down early all day? He was on his arse. And then the referee blows on exactly 6 minutes to end the game. Red shirt rule. Look at Man United against West Ham. They had 10 minutes of 8 minutes extra time. And obviously at some point the referee just has to go, oh, bugger, I can't keep this going any longer. Look at Liverpool against us where they won on the 98th on 6 minutes. Us, 6 minutes on a dot, get off the field, gone home, you've lost. That's all we got. It wouldn't have changed anything, but I see the differences and it's like, come on, mate. Do we really literally have to wear a red shirt? I'm only joking, but am I joking? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, I think he wanted to get out of there. He saw 2-0. He goes, no, let's just go home, boys. We're done.
I mean, did have to get my second yellow card out.
Exactly right. The fights and everything, it was getting a bit boiling. So he's like, no, let's calm this now. Let's get out of here.
Yeah. All right. Well, look, that did end the game. We ended the game 2-0 down. A few boos at the end from the home crowd. I believe that was largely for Arsenal and the refs. I'd be very, very surprised if that was directed at any of the players, because let's be honest, there was an awful lot of effort there from the players today. They obviously wanted to win that game. It's been a very long season, and they went into that game with exactly the right mentality. As Eddie Howe himself said after the game, it's the margins. At this level, where we are now trying to play, these margins are so incredibly significant. And if they don't go your way, you lose. And if they do go your way, you get something out of the game. So credit to Newcastle players, credit to the fans. I thought they were brilliant. I didn't hear a lot of man-on shouts, which is starting to get on my tits now. Every time there's an Arsenal player up one of our, like Bruno's arse, there's not a man-on from the crowd. I always used to get man-ons, it's like, come on, give the guy a hand. He has got eyes in the back of his head, man. I need to see more of that, please. But credit to Arsenal. They came with a really good game plan. Arteta's got them playing really well. They are second, as I said, Bobby, for a good reason. And they did exactly what they had to do and took 3 points. And I thought they were really good. And I actually honestly hope that they managed to beat City to the title, because it does nobody any favours for one team to keep winning the title. And it's been a fair while for Arsenal to win it. And they're playing some good stuff. And Trossard's a great player. I love Trossard. So I hope that they do manage to go on and win the league now that they've beaten us. On one last thing for Newcastle, it's still in our hands. Thank you to West Ham. That was an absolutely smashing result. Thank you, De Gea, for your flappy hands, which was probably one of the most bizarre bit of goalkeeping I think I've seen in a long time. Even Flappy Hansky would have been embarrassed by that one in the other goal there in that match. But that was terrific for us, wasn't it, Bobby? That was terrific. We needed the help from West Ham there.
Yeah, that was the luck that we didn't get in the game we got afterwards. So I think I'm very, very happy with that result. And as you said, it's in our hands now. Like, everyone's shitting themselves because all of a sudden Liverpool are 3 points behind. But it is in our hands. We've got Leeds, Leicester, Brighton, and Chelsea at home. Oh, Chelsea away, I think it is, to come. So it's in our hands. If we don't get 7 points from those fixtures, we probably don't deserve to be Champions League. So that's what we can do.
And Liverpool are not going to stop winning, are they? They've got some fairly easy fixtures, and they've got the entire league behind them.
My message to the fan base is don't give a shit what Liverpool do. Care about what we do, because they can only get to 71 points. No matter, they can win all their games. Even the corrupt league won't give them an extra game to get past us. So
I don't know, mate. That's a bold claim right there.
They can get to 71 points maximum. So it's all in our hands.
And what's our maximum now? 77?
77, yeah. But we only need 72. I mean, Brighton can get to 73 maximum, but they've got very tough fixtures to come, including us. So if one of those points, of those 7 points, is against Brighton,
yeah, that'd be excellent. That'd be absolutely excellent, yeah. Or 3. 3's even better. Let's have 3. All right, look, let's have a look at some final stats. So Newcastle 54% to Arsenal's 46%. We had 12 shots to their 10, amazingly. 5 shots on target to their 6. I think all those on target came in the second half. We had 9 corners. I'm pretty sure we had more than 9 corners to their 4. And we give away 16 fouls to their 12, which is an absolute joke. I'm trying not to swear there. Premier League table, yep, just to recap that. Man City at the top there, 34 games played on 82. Arsenal have played 35 now and are on 81. Newcastle are still in third, thanks to West Ham. We are on 34 games and 65 points. 32 goal difference, still looks pretty good. Manchester United in fourth, must be shitting their pants a little bit. 34 played and 63 points, but only 8 goal difference. And then you got Liverpool breathing down everyone's necks. Played 35, 62 points, and they've got a 25 goal difference. Their goal difference is really racking up now. Spurs in 6. I've got them in this list, but I don't think Spurs are going to do much. 35 games and 57 points. And then Brighton, the dark horses, only played 32 games, and they've got 55 points. So Brighton still have an awful lot to say on how this league finishes, but Newcastle in third, at least for now. All right, man of the match, Bobby. Pick the peanuts out of that one. Who are you going to go for your man of the match? Or do you want to do a 3-2-1? Let's do an AFL 3-2-1 if you want.
I don't know. I don't know who to give it to.
Let me suggest Nick Pope.
I was going to say Pope for the 3. The 2 and the 1.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, isn't it? Let's just say man of the match, Nick Pope, because we might.
Nick Pope. I don't have a clue because it was very even game. I think we're not giving votes to Bruno. We're not giving votes to Willock.
Isaac was all right in spots, I think.
Isaac was okay. I'd say let's just give 3 votes to Nick Pope and carry on.
Get on the bus and go home. Yeah, all right.
Like the ref, blow it at 6 minutes. Let's go.
All right, Bobby, let's leave that there, mate. Thanks for your company. It was a disappointing defeat for Newcastle, but it is not the end of the world. We still have everything in our hands. We can still do this. We just need 3 results from the remaining 4 games. Our next game is away to Leeds. We're actually going to do a live watch along for that one, I think. I'm doing a live watch along with Craigie on that one.
I'm joining you.
Oh, yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, so we've never actually lost a game when we've done watch along, or have we now? I'm not sure. I don't think we have. So we may be the luck that we need to get a good result down there at Ellen Road. But for now, Bobby, appreciate your company, mate. I'm absolutely fingered. Are you fingered?
I'm not going to say it.
Oh, come on, mate. You're fingered. You know you are. All right. You are fingered. There you go, mate. Nice one. Yeah, cheers for your company, mate. And hopefully we will see everyone for the next episode, which is a preview of the Leeds game coming up later in the week. So cheers, Bobby. And thank you to everyone who's watched and listened.
See you guys.
Cheers. See ya.